Oh, geez, I'm all shiny and bald. What's up? Steve Grillo on Grillos AftershockXL on the AftershockXL network. Woo, crazy day, crazy life. It's a new life here for Steve Grillo and all you AftershockXL fans. Lots of big things going on. As you know, I've been following Miss Elegante, Miss whatever. You guys are all fans of hers, and I've been doing a lot of work with her. She is free from her guardianship, if you already know, all you people that watch her on the Aftershock XL network. Been doing much work with her. So that's sort of taken up some of my time. I started a new job at Local 52 in the theatrical grip business. I've been working on movie sets again. I'm very, very happy. And I'll never give up on my show. I'll never give up on Grillo's Aftershock XL or this network. And things keep growing. I know it's been a little while since you guys have tuned in and everything, but I do have a new sponsor. It's called Hover One. They have given me a new hoverboard, and not a hoverboard. I take that back. It's an electric scooter, but their company's name is Hover One, and they have electric go-karts. They have kids' e-bikes. They have computer scooters. I got a scooter. And this little thing is only 27 pounds. The battery life is like 5 hours. I think it might be more. It goes about 15, 20 miles an hour. It's light. You can click onto it. You take it on the subway. They have so many different things for kids and adults alike. Hover1.com. They are the newest in e-bikes and electrical fun things to play with, adult toys. They supplied me with a new electric scooter that I'm having so much fun with, going back and forth to set and enjoying it so much. And living in Manhattan, it makes your life so convenient. And you could just have fun with the kids, or you could use it for work purposes instead of taking the lousy subway. Or if you're COVID fearful, you're by yourself, you're not out there integrating with people, you're on your electric scooter, avoiding everybody. So with that being said, a Saturday night was the big Tyson Fury, Devon Wilder fight. It was one of the coolest boxing what's that word I'm looking for? It was one of the coolest boxing events that has taken place in recent years, considering the UFC has taken over so much of combatant sports, and boxing being the sweet science it is, the chess game. Over the years, since it's divided in different divisions and sort of, there is no big names like a Mike Tyson or a Joe Frazier or a Muhammad Ali, or like my next guest, Mr. Gerry Cooney. Boxing has sort of fell off. I have Gerry on here because, the fight was so sensational on Saturday, and it was such a good spectacle. I had to bring Mr. Roy McDonald on, one of my very best friends in the world, and boxing aficionado, and one of the smartest people I've ever met in my entire life, to come on and talk about boxing, because I think what happened on Saturday was pretty epic. Do you think, Gerry?
Boxing? You told me politics.
Oh.
Hey guys, nice to be with you guys.
Nice to be with you. What's up?
Nice to be with you guys on your show, guys. Listen, great fight Saturday night. You didn't think it was going to be that good, but obviously Deontay Wilder came to fight. He did make some changes. Obviously, when you put that kind of pressure on, what happens is it really affects your stamina. And we did see Tyson Fury towards the end backing Deontay Wilder down. And we found out the end of that first fight that when Deontay Wilder got back down by Tyson Fury, he couldn't get off. And so, but that being said, he was very respectful. Deontay Wilder was. He showed a very good side of him. And I mean, other than being 35, I think the next biggest fight for him would be Anthony Joshua.
Okay, yep. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I got a question for Gerry, because I've been thinking this for the last year and a half. It seems, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when the heavyweight division, which is it's exciting at that level, there's like no other. But do you find that it seems like the heavyweight boxers today, are just these big guys that get in there, just boom, boom, and it seems like there's less of the finesse and the less of the bob and weave and get out of there than there was maybe even 10 or 15 years ago?
No, I think if you look at Tyson Fury, he's a phenomenal guy. He makes you miss. He feints all night, so you never know when to get set. Every time you try and get set, Fury faints a little bit and you stop. You have to set up again. And so he keeps you thrown off all night. And listen, Deontay Wilder, you got to admit, he's a great puncher, but we hadn't seen him look good. In all his fights that went to later rounds, he was always behind until he landed that right hand. And
Right.
so but not just that, you got Usyk, who moved up from cruiserweight, who's won the Muhammad Ali Cup. He
Yep.
beat Joshua like he was a baby. I was so
Yeah.
surprised to see Joshua follow him around the ring. How do you outclass the master boxer? Not by trying to box him, and that's what Joshua was doing. You got to get inside, get a little dirty, and bang those ribs. It's a
Yeah, I
lost
mean,
art.
I was
and you
watching
know, Jerry,
your fight earlier. Go ahead, Roy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I do love that. I do. It's just that sometimes when I watch the heavy, and maybe it's just because I'm getting old, man. Maybe. But when they're standing there banging, 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 and it seems like the plan is out the window, and they're just attacking each other because they're huge guys. I mean, as you are too, but you had there was more like stick and bob. It just seems that way, but. You're right what you said. I mean, I see that too.
That
Yeah.
looked pretty good. Just keep your hands up a little bit higher, brother. Listen,
I think,
listen. When you get to the 8th, 9th round, and you're in the Joshua Usyk fight, you go back to your corner. Your corner's supposed to tell you, forget the plan. The plan's not working. Let's get on them. Let's get close to him. Let's cut the ring off. He didn't even cut the ring off. He was following him around. You can't do that at that level of boxing. And Joshua looked like a complete amateur against a guy like that. You have to be in great shape, and you got to make him fight you. You got to take him out of your comfort zone, and he never did that all night long.
Jerry, let me ask you a question. So now, when you have a big spectacle like that happen on Saturday night, all the hype and all the let's not pull punches. Tyson Fury is quite the showman, and he brought an interest back into boxing that sort of has waned off in the past, say maybe 6 or 7 years, due to the the UFC, the diversity of the UFC and their focus, because there seems to be no focus to me when it comes down to boxing and their titles, because there's so many titles, so many different divisions, and it seems like there used to be just like a one core group of belts that everybody could follow. Now it's kind of hard to follow all these up and coming boxers, whereas the UFC, it's sort of all confined. Now, do you watch something like this by yourself, or do you have a bunch of your friends come over and you watch it together? Because I'm sure you must study it, and you don't want to hear people in your ear, or maybe you want to have a party. What do you do?
The great part about different belts is that it brings attention back to all these. Everybody wants to watch a championship fight. So if there's 4 different belts, you're going to be interested in this championship, that in championship fight, and then you get to see them all, and you can get a better opinion on who's the best. And the boxing fans, we have found that over the years, are very bright. They know what they're looking at. They know what they're going to pay for, and so I think that's a great thing about all the different belts. Then it comes a time when we know the top guys. And listen, the heavyweight division is bursting right now. We have Dillian White, we have Usyk, we have Joshua, Fury, Wilder, we have, Joe George. We got so many guys in that division just waiting to burst out. And we're going to be able to see it finally. After all this pandemic and all these problems, the heavyweight division, like all the other divisions, years ago, I disagree with Andre Ward, who said that in order for boxing to be made, it has to be a great heavyweight division. And I don't believe that anymore. The lightweights are fantastic. You got the middleweights, you got Sal Alvarez, you got, the Beterbiev, Bivol, the light heavyweight division. You have so many great champions and so many. Welterweight is Errol Spence, Terrence Crawford, Shawnee Porter. There's so many great fighters now in this era that we're just waiting for this pandemic to get over so we can see these fights.
Now wait, hold on a second. I just wanted to. Do you watch the fights by yourself because you want to focus in on everything that's going on, or do you have like a little party?
It doesn't matter. If I'm watching a fight, I know what's going on every second. I can break a fight down in one round. I know what these guys are capable of. I know what they can do. Obviously, you can always land like a Deontay Wilder. You always had to worry about him because he could always land that right hand and put you out. The problem with Wilder is that he had such success early on that when he got older and he couldn't knock you out, he started to blame people and blame things and say there was crooked gloves and there was cheating. I mean, it's just ridiculous because when you're in the dressing room, you are getting your hands wrapped. You know, there's somebody from your camp in that dressing room watching. So there's no cheating going on. And I think that was just his way of trying to get from being immature, from having all that success. And he hasn't come out. Again, he said something. There was horsehair in the glove. I mean, when are you going to end this?
Well, you know,
I heard that too.
Say that. Wasn't that kid's name Billy Collins that got the guy had plaster in his gloves? Like when someone's in camp in someone else's dressing room, how do they get away with something like that?
Obviously, Louis Resto had a problem with that. His Panama Louis, supposedly put, that in your gloves. I mean, it's ridiculous. But since then, they don't allow that anymore. When you're getting wrapped, your other guys from the other corner, your opponent, they have somebody in the dressing room watching from soup to nuts. So it doesn't go on.
Yeah,
It's just
that's the thing now. That's totally a thing. And Jerry, I just want to back up for 1 second. When somebody's in the 9th, 10th round, especially at the heavyweight level, and they start fading, do you think it's just a conditioning thing? Like they didn't put the effort in the gym and running in the morning and just like so they could go the distance? Because I've seen so many fights where the guy looks fantastic for 8 rounds, 9 rounds, and then they start like getting winded. And when I see the mouth open up and they're breathing out of the mouth, I go, oh no, this fucking guy.
Well, how do you think you feel after the 8th round, big
no,
fella?
yeah, but
You know what I'm saying? Let's be
what I
honest.
do for a living? I get up at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, so listen, here's the story, right? It's experience. These guys don't have the experience to learn to breathe and to pace themselves. And obviously, in a fight of that caliber, you're watching Wilder and Fury. Wilder had to put pressure on him, put pressure on, and that takes energy. And so it's not the same as just what he's always used to doing. He was doing something different, and it's hard. And you get tired. Unfortunately, that's the game. And the worst thing to happen is that to be in the 8th, 9th round and say, oh, man, where's the bell? Where's the bell? I'm getting tired. I need a rest. And that does happen. That's from lack of experience. And obviously, that being said, Wilder still performed at a high level. As tired as he was, he kept throwing right hands to try and land that shot. And you got to really take your hat off to him. I'm proud of what he did, and I'm more proud of what Fury did. Fury was so heavy, so big. And I talked to his trainer, and I said, don't you think he should have been a little thinner than that? He said, no, actually, I wanted him to be heavy because what Fury does is he holds you down, he lays on you, puts his arms on you, lays on you, makes you tired, and that's part of the game.
Let me ask you a question, because I don't know this, because even though I'm a big fan.
I might not tell you.
Yeah. When you were preparing for a fight back in the day and you were on top of the world because you were one of the elite fighters in the world, what was your regimen like? Like, what time did you get up? What did you do? Did you run? Did you how did it go so that you would get that that energy that you would need to pursue? I think it was 15 rounds, right? When you fought.
Yeah, Roy, I took a lot of shots. It's hard to remember. Actually, you train hard.
Look it up on YouTube. They're all on YouTube.
Listen, it's a tough game. It's a very tough game. You run at 6 in the morning. You do a weight training before breakfast. You have breakfast. You rest, relax. You go to the gym at 3. You got 4 or 5 different sparring partners looking to take your head off. And then after that, you do weight training again for upper body. You get something to eat and you go to bed. And that's the process. That's the lifestyle that we have. And obviously you get to sit with reporters and do television interviews. Keeps you a little busy. You have some family there, some friends that keep you occupied. But it's a lonely, tough life.
When you train.
Let me just ask this one question. If you're, what is the ramp up? Because I think, and look, I'm not an expert at this, so I'm just a fan, but I think that you have to time it right? You would have to say, okay, I work out, and right before you hit the fight, that's when you're at the top. Like, So is it like a 6-week thing? Is it a 12-week thing? Is it, how long does it take to start?
The real training camp is 6 to 8 weeks, but you're always staying in some kind of shape, and then you have great trainer who balances your sparring. I'll do 8 rounds. I'll do 6 rounds. I'll do 12 rounds. I'll do 15 rounds. I'll go back to 6 rounds, and you balance out. Some days you don't spar. Some days you just take walk when you go for a run. It's a balance, and you learn about your body. And everybody's different. Everyone's got a different setup to experience, and you just want to be the best. So when they knock on your door in the dressing room, and the guy says, "Cooney, you're next," and you take that long walk from the dress room into the arena, and you hear the roar of the crowd, you become magical. You want to perform at the highest level.
Steve, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Good.
Did you have a problem with Tyson Fury's showboating? Like he's sort of out there. Do you enjoy that kind of like rhetoric that he performs when he's like getting ready for a match, or are you like more of like, no, it should be kind of chill?
Listen, I'm a funny guy, unless you ask my wife. But I believe in humor. I like his attitude. That's how he stays chill. That's how he stays calm. And he's a great athlete. He's allowed to do whatever he wants. He doesn't belittle anybody. He just says, "I'm going to beat your ass." And he means it. And he's working hard at it. And listen, he went 11 hard rounds with all that weight on him and knocked out Deontay Wilder. So you really it's amazing what he's done. You remember he was up to 300 pounds and he came back, he was doing drugs and drinking and smoking, and he came back and the first thing he says, I need a challenge. I want Deontay Wilder. And that was when nobody wanted Deontay Wilder. And he got in shape and he fought to a draw the first time. And I could say he actually won that fight.
Yeah, I remember that. It was very close. I have a question for you right now, because the heavyweight division is exciting right now, which sometimes that's not the case. But in all the divisions, and I love the lightweight thing because there's so much action. They generally don't knock each other out at that thing. What do you think right now is the most exciting weight class to watch in boxing?
Well, I mean, you have 168, you have the lightweight division, you have the welterweight division, where you just got stacks of talent. I mean, they're so good. Ugas just beat Manny Pacquiao welterweight now. And then you got, for light heavyweight, you have Beterbiev, you got Bivol, you got Joe Smith. You got great, deep talent in the light heavyweight division. But I'm just saying to you guys, there's that talent in a lot of divisions. The smaller ones, the bigger ones, the light heavyweight, the cruiserweights. There's great. Right now, boxing is at an all-time high. And someone was talking about MMA before. I think what happened with MMA was that fighters were getting raped and robbed from the promoters going on back there. And then MMA came out, and then people wanted to try something different because everybody was getting screwed in boxing. Now it's back. Got top-ranked Barbram over 50 years. You got DAZN. You got PBC. You got some great companies putting on high-level boxing.
Yeah.
As you know already, Gerry, and this is a testament to what an amazing person that you are. I grew up with boxing because of my old man. And I had brought him when you came out to the studio and did the show for the first time. And he was elated to meet you. And you made me really look like a big shot in front of my father for the first time in my life. And even when I called you for some reason for something else, the first question you asked me was, "How is my old man?" And I appreciate it. And you didn't say, "Old man," you said, "How's your dad doing?" And I appreciated that. But my dad was like, the one who we enjoyed boxing together. It was the one few things that we go across the street because the one person on the block had HBO, and we'd all go to his house and watch boxing, watch you and everybody else box. And my old man cannot stand the UFC at all whatsoever. And when I bring it up to him, he gets livid and angry and mean. That's not boxing. It's not fighting. It's just a bunch of guys kicking each other. Do you have that kind of same mentality, or are you able to watch it and appreciate the sport?
Steve and Roy, listen, those guys are great wrestlers, jiu-jitsu, karate, whatever they are, and they're making a career out of it. They're making money. They're doing well. There's women in it that can fight. So I'm not going to begrudge any of those guys. As far as I'm concerned, the real sport is boxing. It's, Marcus of Queensberry rules. There's no, kicking in the head, kicking in the face. But anyway, that's what they're choosing. I tell parents, don't put your kid in that. That's too abusive. I mean, that's ridiculous. You can learn in boxing the most important thing you want to teach your kids when you go to a gym, watch the trainer who's teaching defense. Watch the guy who's teaching you how to hold your hands up and keep your elbows in. Anybody can punch, but you have to learn defense so then you can take boxing your whole life and box with anybody because you know how to defend yourself. That's a great game. That kicking is just, listen, they're great guys, great personalities, but it's not for me.
No, so
Who was the
you don't follow any of it.
I mean,
Or
obviously,
one
I
particular
followed it through
person?
the years. I followed some of the great fights, but
Okay.
I followed the great fights, but not to the degree where I know everybody. No, at boxing, I know everybody.
Yeah.
It's my world.
Now I did a little
the
reading. You and your dad had a little. It was like, I guess, a little tension when you were coming up, and your dad was really kind of hard on you and stuff
A
like
little
that.
tension. It was a nightmare.
Well, at least the article said that.
That's me and my mom.
It was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare, yeah. No,
My
but
father was a rough guy.
influence on you coming up, though, no?
Well, my oldest brother did. My oldest brother, Tom, he left the house at 15 because he couldn't take it anymore. And when he got to be 18, he started going to a gym. And I was like 15 and a half. So I followed him and watched him. One day, I put the gloves on. I was hitting the bag. I felt good. I said, can I box somebody? And they put me in there with this little Italian guy, half my size. He knocked me around the gym, right? So I threw him off, went home. But I went down in the basement at 15 and a half, and I hit the heavy bag again, understanding that the guy was going to come on me and what I needed to do. And then 3 days later, I went back and they asked if I could box that kid again, and he could never do that to me again. And about 6 months later, I won the middleweight title in the Golden Gloves in Madison Square Garden. And,
Wow.
it was the roar of the crowd. You can't get away from that. I
Jerry,
felt like somebody.
You're a big guy, and we've been in the same room together. And you tower over me. So, were you a big kid, like 15 years old? Were you like biggest in your grade? Like you were the biggest guy, or was it just something that happened later from there?
When I was 16, I was 6'4", 160 pounds. As a matter of fact, the night before the finals of the gloves, I had to lose 7 pounds. So I had to
Really?
sweat it out, and I didn't get to rest. I had to sweat it out, and I couldn't eat anything or drink anything until I weighed in. I weighed in, and back in those days, we thought, okay, let's go to Tad's Steakhouse. We thought that was the place to go, Tad's Steakhouse, and so I won the middleweight title that night. And Herman Sporting Goods said, if you win the title, I'm going to give you a heavy bag, a free heavy bag. And I went the next morning. I was out there waiting for them to open the doors to get my heavy bag. And ever since, here's the story, guys. So I grew up in an abused household where I hid in the basement. If you couldn't see me, you wouldn't hurt me. And then I started fighting. And every day after my fight, I'd go to the newsstand. And it seemed like my picture was on the back page of the Daily News, knocking somebody out. And so it made me feel like somebody. And that's how I became a fighter.
Jerry, I'm going to ask you a personal question. You don't have to answer this, but there must have been a time when
Don't
you were big and you put the weight on. It wasn't 160 anymore. Did you ever have a confrontation where you ended all that shit that was abusive to you in your house? I mean,
my father built a ring in the backyard, and he used to box me, and my mother would keep time. And I could have kicked his ass, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't hit him. And so I always regretted that during my life as I got older. And then I met somebody who had that experience and did knock their father out. And he said it was the worst experience of his life. So I made peace with my father. I went to his grave site and I sat down and talked to him for an hour, and I made peace. And, I pray for my father and my mother every day.
Yeah. Your mother seemed like it was fun. From the
Pardon me?
article I was reading, you had a lot of fun with your mother?
My mother was a great woman. She kept us alive. She kept us motivated. She loved everybody the same. It was and I bring her and her mother, who was 88 at the time, and you couldn't get her from come. If you didn't ask her to go to the fight, she'd be so mad at you, and she'd sit in the fight, be nervous as hell. They wouldn't even look, and then they'd hear me knocking somebody out, and they'd look. But
I told you before. I was like, I was a wrestler, and the first wrestling match that my mother ever came to, she cried. Like she just really couldn't handle it. And
why you lost? You mean you lost?
It was just the fact that it was just, to her, it was so violent. I didn't win my first year. My freshman year, I didn't understand. Like every time I got on the mat, I sort of drew a blank, and I would get my ass handed to me left and right, and I was putting the work in, but I wasn't focused. I wasn't aware. Okay, there wasn't aware, and then finally, my sophomore year, I got sick and tired of getting my ass handed to me, and I went on the mat and I said, "I've been working for a year and a half. Why don't I apply what I learned at practice onto the match?" And I remember finally getting some kid in an arm bar, and because I did it sometimes, and running around his head and pinning him, and it was the first time I pinned somebody, and I said, "This is so much better than losing." And I wanted to win so much after that I realized that it's how much effort you put into it is what you get back. So I started training harder. I'd wake up and run, and I go to school and go to practice, and I come home and run. But you made me have some flashbacks, and which is something that probably jeopardized me as far as my success in my high school and college wrestling is the dropping the weight. Because, it was such a big deal. Everybody dropping weight classes where I would drop 6 or 7 pounds the day before a match, or maybe even more, and starve myself for 3 days on top of training. And then once I weighed in, which is when you don't eat for 3 days and you drop all that weight, the first thing you want to do is eat. And the first thing you want to do is eat something that's your favorite horrible food, and which to me was Fruit Loops at the time. And I ate a bowl of Fruit Loops. And my first match, I won, but I almost had to run off because I almost shit my pants. Because after a couple of days of not eating, your stomach shuts down. And then once food hits it, it immediately turns back on and is working twice as hard. So I almost shit the Fruit Loops out on the mat.
That's a little too much for me. But, too much. But listen, but I wrestled too, and I loved it because it made me feel confident, self-confidence about myself.
I got all my confidence.
Great time.
I wouldn't be here talking to you if it wasn't for wrestling. Simply because if I didn't wrestle in high school, I wouldn't have went to Hunter College. If I didn't go to Hunter College, I would have never worked for the Howard Stern Show.
Great.
And everything after
Gerry,
that.
Yeah, I have a question, and especially back in your day, there were boxing is known for corruption. And can you talk a little bit about? I don't want you to get into anything that you don't want to talk about. But how was it when you were coming? Did you feel any of that shit, like mafia or any of that it's kind of known for?
It wasn't.
You had two Jewish
kind of
managers. I know that.
And thank God I'm here. No, I'm kidding.
It was. What it was. Okay. It was. Don King owned every heavyweight except me. So why would he give me any of those guys to gain experience so that by the time it came around for me to fight Holmes, I could be ready? So he kept me blocked out of developing with some of the guys. And I needed 4 or 5 more fights of top-rate guys that I could learn from. And that was partly his fault. And then my management, they didn't care either. They wanted to make the big payday. So I'm just going along with it. I'm an abused kid. I'm just, okay, yeah, right, okay, maybe they're looking out for me. But looking back on it, I regret that because I would really love to have a good shot at beating Holmes. And we were close. It was close. It was a good, great fight. And I don't know for the life of me why there wasn't a second one. That could have been a trilogy fight. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
How much did you were really working his body? I was watching that before on the subway over here. And how much did you realize how hard those punches were and how it affected Holmes and his performance?
Well, I was so inexperienced because I had a lot of knockouts, early round knockouts, that I didn't really understand the strength that I gave out. Now, I was listening to Foreman talk to David Letterman. David Letterman asked him, who's the biggest puncher he's ever fought? He said, Gerry Cooney. Gerry Cooney, Ron Lyle, and somebody else. But I didn't know what a puncher I was. And I loved getting to the body. I saw my brother as a kid knock somebody out with a body shot and then a right hand to the chin. And it was the most horrible thing I watched. So that's how I became a body puncher. And then, it worked.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you started working, the body more in your fights after that point, I guess, because, if you were working my body, well, forget me. But, it seems like that would be your, that's your money ticket.
Roy,
looking from the outside,
Roy, let me just tell you something. I've been watching your movement since I've been on. I'd be after your bodybuilders. Bottom two. Listen to me.
No,
the bottom. Hold on a second.
This is what you'd see.
You'd be running down the street, right? No, you. The bottom 2 ribs on either side, they'd be mine, bro. I'd be having some rib sandwiches, bro.
the McRoy rib. So I just saw something recently, and one of the greatest boxing spectacles, which was Rumble in the Jungle, Ali versus Foreman down in Africa. Rope-a-dope. It was like George Foreman was a beast. That he beat the crap out of Frazier. Everybody thought they was unbeatable, and Ali's comeback. He beat the crap out of Ali's comeback. Now, Foreman, and he admits to the defeat. He was very clear about this, and I don't know how old this interview was that I saw, but he said two things: that the ropes were extremely loose, where they weren't as tight as I don't know what they would normally be in a boxing ring.
For Ali, you mean for Ali?
No, Foreman said the rope, the rope were extremely loose, like unnormally loose, and that when he drank the water, it tasted like medicine.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I can't attest to the water, but I can attest to that they left the ring ropes loose so Ali could take the sting out of those punches, because Foreman was a vicious puncher, especially to the body, and Ali had a lot of problems after that fight because of the body punches that Foreman threw. And yes, so I don't know how Ali went about it, how he got it to be done, but he got the ropes to be loosened so that he could absorb less of the power.
But didn't they fight at like two in the morning or something? Was it like so fucking crazy where they fought because they wanted to? They were in Zaire, I think, right? And then
but what does that got to do? What does that got to do with
I just wonder if they told you, Gerry, you got the fight. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, would that alter your?
No, they were acclimated to the time over there because they were
obviously, John, Roy, and Steve, that they have to put the fight on that's a convenient time for here in America and in Europe to watch it, because you want to get the pay-per-view, hits, and so that's the story about wherever you fight, you train at that time. So if I'm training in Vegas, instead of training at 6 o'clock at night, I'm going to train at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I can be prepared for the same time. So your body gets used to that rhythm. And the same thing with those guys. If they're training at 4 in the morning, if they're fighting at 4 in the morning, they're going to be training at that time or sometimes around that, so that their body timetable can get used to it.
So since we're talking about the rope-a-dope and that counter punching thing that I think he might have invented it. I'm sure he didn't. It probably those boxers way before, but I always thought Livingston Bramble was the best counter puncher I ever saw in my life. He thought, I can't remember, but
boom, boom, boom.
Tell us who you thought. Yeah, Mancini. Who do you think was the best counter puncher? Was it Ali with that rope-a-dope, or was it somebody even?
Well, I mean, there were so many great fighters. Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, but Ali was a gift of God. I mean, I saw him walking down the airport. He had a glow about himself. He looked like he was walking 6 inches above the ground. He used to be able to levitate himself. And he was. I see him pull over on the road in New York City, and thousands of people would run up and hang out with him. And those are the kinds of things he did. So he had extra power, and he was a gift in his mind. He was a full package. They talked about people who's the most famous person in the world, and people in the darkest corners of Africa had pictures up in their mud huts of Muhammad Ali. So he was just a great guy. He'd call my mother. He'd tell my mother, I'm going to be fine. And there was talks at one time we were going to fight each other, but he lost to Spinks, to Leon Spinks, so they had the rematch. So I lost out there. But anyway.
So he called your mom? He called your mom?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like beautiful. Was it her birthday or something, or he just?
No, he called her to tell her not to set her mind at ease, about the fight.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, that's the kind of guy he was, and we all play it forward. I mean, celebrities and athletes. Someone will call me and tell me, my father, he loved you so much. You couldn't believe it. I said, give him a call, and I would talk to him. Those are the great things that we get the opportunity to do, to make someone feel a little special, right? I love being able to walk away and someone feeling better about themselves. I go to an orphanage. I work with kids. I teach them about hope and about love and about getting rid of anger. Once you learn how to fight, you don't got to fight anymore. There's not enough of that going around.
Right. That's beautiful.
In mass quantities, there's not enough of that going on. There's way too much anger and strife, and the world needs more Gerry Cooneys right now.
Listen, let me tell you, both you guys, I will kick both your asses, bro. Let me get my hands on you.
You know what?
No, I stood
swear
at
to
you.
God,
I'm
Gerry,
not going.
I would love to take a punch from you just so I could say I did.
No, you wouldn't. You would not.
And then Steve's going to take my punch, so you get
Yeah,
two.
you got.
But
Let him know. He won't be able. He won't be able to tell how the second one feels because he'll be sleeping.
What's next in the boxing world? Why don't you have such great analytical skills? Why aren't you like commentating or being a part of what's going on with all
Well,
this?
you know, I got older. I'm 65 years old now, and there's younger kids in there. I love the game of boxing. I don't really appreciate all the people that are doing the commentary. A lot of people don't really know the game, but overall, it's a great game. We have great fights. Shawnee Porter, Terrence Crawford is coming up. You know, we got a lot of great fights in so many. You know, Devin Haney is a great lightweight. We got uh, Teofimo Lopez. You know, there's just so many great fights out there that we're going to be able to see. And anytime you want to call me or you want me to break down the fight, you just let me know, and I'll be glad to come on with you two guys.
we should watch a fight together and put you on speakerphone so we can all talk. We're watching.
Well, it sounds good
But
to
a
me.
question: do you have
No, I think we should go to Gerry's
a couple
house
kids who train
and
Okay.
watch it at Gerry's house. Roy will bring the popcorn.
What was that? I can't hear you guys.
We're so excited to talk to you. Yeah. And I got to give it
We'll
to
do a
Steve.
live
It's his show.
broadcast.
Sorry.
Go ahead,
But
Steve.
yeah, I'm glad you're optimistic about the future of boxing because
Great
I
shape.
felt there's been a void in sensation. You know, like I've been missing like something interesting about it because there's so many diverse different players and boxers. I mean, and you know, I'm glad it's making a comeback. And you know, this last fight really sparked my interest in watching old fights and paying attention to exactly how brilliant you have to be just to step into the ring and forget about just power and throwing punches. It's like you're talking about strategy and being experienced and watching all that and watching it play out to someone being like an amazing physical athlete and enjoying the sport. And I'm starting to get that back. That's why that made me think of calling you because I got that feeling back again after that fight on Saturday.
You know, Steve, I tell people because a lot of people drifted away when this was going on. And after the Tyson thing, it kind of died out for a while. There was not a lot of interest. I tell people on your computer face, put on boxing scene. And every day, open it up and look at a couple of stories quick in passing and get in touch with the game again because it's great right now. And we're going to see great fights and you're going to see great fights. So learn a little bit about these guys. Learn about them. Listen about their personalities, what they give, what they've been through, and the big fight that they're in because it's a tough game.
Yeah, I just watched. I did a little a background because I just thought he was just such a smug asshole and stuff. But I did really watch a lot of Prince Nassim's fights, and I like is what a show. Like he was a great showman in the ring, but and you think when someone does all that kind of movement around and that stuff, it was his technique, and he was really good at
Come on. Come on, Steve. It took him an hour to come out of the dressing room and get in the ring. What are you talking about? Was he Superman? You think he's
Didn't
Superman?
Didn't he come on a carpet?
Right before he got his ass handed to him.
Well, he got it.
He knew how to use that physical, the physicality to like box with it. It was interesting.
Fortunately or unfortunately, everybody can figure out your style. You're going to meet somebody along the road that has broken down your system and can manipulate you, and that's the game. And that's the good and the bad about it. And sometimes we have trilogies like we had this past weekend with Wilder and Fury. And great fight for the fans.
It was an amazing.
That's why I always loved Tyson because he just came out like in a black shirt, took it off, boom. You know, I have a question for you though. Are there young fighters or boxers that come to you and ask you to train them, and do you do it?
You know, I'm going to tell you something that there's a lot of talented kids out there, but you know, obviously they're being directed away from boxing from smart parents. But it's for a certain group of people, it's the greatest thing in the world. You get to express yourself. You have that magic inside you that comes out. I have a daughter and a son that I train. And one son's an MMA fighter. He's a great, tough kid, 34 years old, married, got a great job. And I have two other kids, Jackson and Sarah. One's 20 and my son is 23. They both can fight. I've got to spend hours and hours and hours with them in the gym, teaching them how to protect themselves and how to punch with your body. And they're both punchers. They both got Cooney's power, and it's so much fun that I've had those experiences. And someday maybe I'll meet somebody that wants it more than I want it for them. The person's
Are
got to
they?
really want it.
Are your kids as big as you? Especially
Well, my
the
daughter,
boys, I guess.
my daughter's 5'11". She's a great dancer, ballet, jazz, hip hop, everything. And she's 5'11". She's a great athlete. She can do anything, and she can fight. She also teaches boxing. And my son is 6'4", 6'3", 6'4", and he's a great conditioned guy. He's like, there's no body fat on him. He punches like a mule. I showed him an overhand right. I tell him, whatever you do, don't ever throw that at anybody outside in the bar because you're going to kill somebody. That's how powerful he is. And so,
Wow.
just the fact that, I got those hours to spend with them. I'm putting the gym together in my house so I can train them more because it's a gift to be with your kids more.
Yeah, well, having you as the dad, it would be, that's a,
Well, that's
it's like
nice of you to
having,
say.
it's
Thank
like
you.
having Paul McCartney as your, dad. You're doing music or some shit.
It's great.
It's built right in.
I like that. I like that.
Sorry, Steve.
Did I play any sports? I wrestled. I wrestled.
I'm talking about like now. Do you golf or anything like that? Or
I golfed. Listen, I was down to a 3 handicap. I had 2 hole-in-ones. I had 50 eagles. I had so many things. But to keep it, it's so hard. And I met one guy in my life, Lou DeBella, who told me, he said, Jerry, I can't stand golf. And I thought, how could you not stand golf, right? And then I got it. And then years later came along. And when I go to a course, I don't remember the good shots. I remember the bad shots.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're not pros. Even the pros have bad shots. Yeah. So you can imagine how many we have.
I just started.
Good.
Very frustrating. He was really good. We went golfing not so long ago.
Steve, you're going to need that if you want to fight me. You're going to need 2 guys.
No, I'm just studying on two of them anyway. No, I would do that. I never learned how to throw hands. You know what I'm saying? Anytime I got into an altercation, I always wound up on the floor because that's where I'm comfortable. But yeah. I would love to know how to throw hands because I have no idea. I'm like, I'm more of like a haymaker guy.
It's so simple. It's so simple to learn some 2 or 3 moves that you can just sit on your body, feel all your power turning in. Make like you're leaving, but you're not leaving. You're just loading up your body and then turn it in and come back with the hook. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. Or a body shot. Hit somebody with a body shot. You can't survive that. You got to go down. You got to fall on the floor. And then you can stand over them. You can say, hey, how do you feel now, my friend? What you got to say now for yourself?
Yeah. I had a friend that was a boxer, and we were outside of you know how things go. You're waiting for a taxi, some jerk off's walking in, and I didn't realize what a good boxer was. And I was like, there was 3 guys that started with us, and he goes, chill out, I got this. And he fucking went, boom, 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 and all 3 of them were on the floor in less than 20 seconds. And I sat there with my mouth open. I went, I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah. Well, stick is easier. You got to carry a stick with you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I like this. My Wesson.
There you go.
Well, I don't know if I should even tell.
That's a real commitment. That's a real commitment when you're going to take something like that.
Age, I take the subway very early in the morning. So if something like that's going to happen, I'm committing myself to protecting myself because I've seen the way things are out there at some points of the day, and
it's scary.
It's not like it used to be.
Mm-hmm. We had a gay friend in the neighborhood that was big. He wasn't your size, but he was big, and he was in the Marines. And these guys at the bar one night, they were like on him because he was a gay guy, and it was years and years ago when nobody got that shit anyway, and. It was escalating, and I was like, I got his back because nobody's gonna fuck with him. And he said, "That's it." And he put the beer down. He goes, "Can I curse on this thing?"
You can curse. You say whatever you want.
Because then he goes, you know what I like more than sucking dick? Kicking ass. Boom! And and I was gonna get up to, and my buddy grabs me. He goes, I think he's got this.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can only be pushed so far. I mean, you just don't want to be pushed. I'm not, I'm here to make peace, but don't step on my feet.
No,
No,
Did
no.
anybody ever do that to you, Jerry? Like, were you ever out like having dinner or just having
Yeah.
a good time and somebody's fucking like, oh, I could kick your ass, like
Well, yeah,
having beer muscles?
you know, alcohol, when you're around alcohol, those things can happen. And what you do, you know, the real couple of times it really got to the point where I would just look them in the eye and say, listen, pal, what do you really want to do? You want me? And they never did. They never did. One time I caught a guy's hands in the air.
Oh,
What, he
really?
threw a
Throwing
punch at
a
you?
punch at me. Yeah, I caught his hands in
And
the
you
air.
caught it?
I caught it.
Well,
That's scary.
You might have heard of this bar in New York at the Upper East Side called Dorian's, and I manage there. Everybody knows the infamous case that is involved with the bar, but Mr. Dorian is still alive and kicking, and he's sort of an old school. When I say OG, he was an old, not an Irish gangster, so to speak, like mafia, but his father was from Belfast. He came up fighting. He said, "I never lost a fight in my life." And it's like he grew up a fighter and made a name for himself. But his wife, God rest her soul, she just passed away, Mrs. Dorian. She was one of the first Ford models. And they just came back from their honeymoon. And Mrs. Dorian's just an Irish scrapper, just like, off the street. Mrs. Dorian was on TV. She did movies. And they just got married and they were eating at the Palm. And Mrs. Dorian, we were in the car listening, I was driving him around and he's listening to Sirius. And, the name came up on the radio and it says Hoagie Carmichael. And he goes, "You ever hear of that prick?" And I go, "Yeah, Mr. Dorian, I don't know much about him." He goes, "Well, let me tell you a story. Me and the missus just got married and we're having dinner at the Palm. And this prick's sitting across the table and he's looking at me like, what the fuck are you doing with him?" And I knew it was bothering him. So the missus went to the bathroom and I went over and I sat at the table and I said, "What's your fucking problem?" He goes, "Who do you think you are being with a woman like that?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to tell you two things. I can fuck better than you and I can fight better than you. Which one do you want to do first?" And I was like,
so wait a minute.
My entire life.
Where is this
Mr.
conversation going to?
Yeah, exactly.
So Mr. Dorian fucked Hoagie Carmichael?
No, yeah, okay. No, but it put him the fuck up. That's what it did. It was a way of, like, preventing an altercation where what's he going to do after you say something like that?
Right. Well, listen, guys, very good. It's been great being on with you again. Like I said, I'll come on again sometime when you want. Just reach out for me. And
promote anything or you got something to talk about, I got your back.
I appreciate your time, guys. Roy and Steve.
Yeah, and Jerry, if you come on, I'll just keep talking to you, and you'll get aggravated because
it's all good.
It's such a thrill. I mean, it's such a thrill.
Same here.
You're from a time when my dad would take me to fights, and it's an honor and a pleasure to talk to you anytime I get to talk to you. So.
Well, thank you, Roy and Steve Grillo. Thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm looking forward to seeing you again. Okay.
Absolutely, 100%. Man. Thank you so much.
All right, guys. We'll see you, fellas.
All right, buddy.